is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink that Facebook let me tag as the late Patti Fink for the first time.
It's finally going, okay, after all these years, maybe that's her name.
And we have Josh here with us. We have a studio audience here with us. We're just going to do year in review, news, this week in Trump.
Oh, if we did This Week in Trump, we could consume the whole show.
Yeah, we need an extra hour.
I was on vacation this week. I have no idea what that man did this week.
You're listening to Knon.
Oh, well, ignorance is bliss.
Sometimes.
Just a second.
89.3 FM in Dallas and... There we go. You're listening to Knon.
It's going again.
And it's going again.
Thank you.
I was listening to that other nonprofit radio show this week, and they've done on my lunch break. I was doing some errands, and I had it on the car radio, and they were replaying old tapes of stuff because I'm sure everybody's on vacation. And 2 minutes of dead air. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
They're almost as good as we are.
We were just playing three things at once.
Okay.
And that's because, I'm just learning this board. We've been doing this show for 35 years, and
the board's brand new.
It is. It was donated. This brought us up to 1990s technology, and we love it.
And we just a few years ago lost our beloved 8-track player.
Well, it was a 4-track.
4-track. Yeah, and if you don't know what that is, I'm sure it's in Wikipedia. You can look it up. We have a computer now.
Let's do a couple of stories. I threw out the question, what was your best day of the year? And Lerone, you came up with something immediately, didn't you? And by best day, I mean best day, best story, favorite thing that happened, most memorable.
Yeah, it wasn't the best day. It was just a memorable thing that I didn't expect. One of my dear friends passed away this year.
Oh, how wonderful!
And at his funeral, his son is very just closed off, doesn't talk to anybody, rarely smiles, kind of a loner. But I was one of the pallbearers, and afterwards, I went. And he just jumped up and gave me a hug and started crying. And he talked to me. And later on, his mother told me that he was the only person, including his family, that he felt comfortable doing it with.
Oh, wow.
And speaking with.
Okay, now...
So, it was just a really memorable moment.
When I said how wonderful, I obviously don't mean that. That's a sweet story.
It is.
When I thought of this, we're just sitting outside. I jotted down two things immediately. Pattie came in and she said, oh, sure. And you'll tell us yours next. Lerone is thinking and thinking. A good thing that happened. Could not.
Something to remember.
At a funeral.
And that's why he's going first, so we could go up from there. But that's a pretty good story.
That is a good story. That's a real sweet story.
That's pretty awesome.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
It is Lerone's birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
We may sing in the second segment.
Please do.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, so I just want to warn, that's what I'm saying in the second segment, so our listeners can brace.
With Josh and our studio audience, all of y'all collectively can surely hit a note.
Yes, we can, or a whole bunch of different ones.
It'll take us the whole song to hit it, but we'll land that last one.
And we might do it in different keys. Pattie, your best day of the year?
Oh, election night, hands down.
Because
Democrats had a wonderful night. I worked the election that day. And had, so many people had worked so hard through the year, and So many of our pro-fairness, pro-equality candidates won handily that night. And not just locally, but in the state races and nationally, we took back the House. And if you start digging deeper into state legislatures across the country, city councils, all of those things, school boards, we did a tsunami. It was, the media likes to play it down, and certainly Republicans do.
No, it was a blue wave.
It was a blue wave for sure.
It was funny
a great
because
night.
it didn't feel that way here in Texas because we put all of our eggs in Beto O'Rourke's basket.
But we didn't.
It felt that way. And once we started looking at the election, it was like, oh, we did pretty well here. Oh, we did really well there. Oh,
Right.
we did so.
Yeah, Beto was would have been that cherry on top, but we still got the cake.
Yeah, yeah. And with there have been a lot of looks at the data since then, and Beto really didn't lift a lot of people. There were countless ballots in every precinct that were just marked for Beto. That was it. So in terms of lifting other candidates, that was just working their asses off in their precincts and their districts. It didn't translate directly at all.
Okay, so I have two. One was a week ago, Michelle Obama.
Right.
I mean, meeting her, I always loved her. My respect for her, I can't tell you, it's through the roof now. And she was just named
Most
admired woman of the year.
And her husband was named
Most admired
man.
And this is the first time in,
I think
16 years
that
Hillary Clinton is not the most admired person.
Right.
Yep.
Interesting. But that day she was, and it wasn't because of the speech at night or the discussion at night at the American Airlines Center. It was following her through the Young Women's Leadership Conference, I think it was called, the Young Women's Leadership Conference. The way she inspired those teens was awesome. I mean, everything from great advice to really listening to some of the things they were saying and having wonderful answers for them, to hugging every single one of them. I mean, she was wonderful.
And she's always been one. I've had the good fortune to have seen her in person 6 or 8 times. And I remember, not just the Wind Spear last year, but or earlier this year, but and the American Airlines Center. But in 2008, when we were in Denver, we had an LGBT luncheon, and she came and spoke to us, and that was really amazing. And that was really when we were still getting to know her. And I've always had such admiration and respect for her, and I was thrilled when she was named most admired woman of the year, and they kind of swept that. So I was really excited. And then Trump is number 2, but up in the men's, but there's big gap.
So he did come in number 2.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But massive gap in terms of percentage.
Yeah.
And then after him was George W. Bush. He came in at 2%.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Number 2 on the woman's side was Oprah. And Hillary came in and fell on number
Don't you think
3.
that's interesting, 2 black women?
Yeah, absolutely.
Most admired
Of course,
women.
caught that immediately.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so my second best day was the day I found out a friend of mine got parole. I worked my ass off for that parole.
And congratulations.
Congratulations.
It was one of those things that he was in a program called the Prison Entrepreneur Program. About 250 people started the program. By the time of graduation, 59 people graduated. He was in the top 10. He had, in prison, been taking college courses, got straight A's, which is how we connected. He had written a letter to our newspaper, to the Dallas Voice, and I took it to my editor. I said, this is really well written. We get letters from prisoners, but this was really well written. So I answered, and we started this friendship. I wrote a story about it in the paper. Anyway, he got transferred up to Dallas, to Venus, which is just south of Arlington, to the Estes unit, which has this prison program. And it's a wonderful program because it really does prepare prisoners to go back into civilian life, and then once they're out there, helps them. You know, whoever thought of this brilliant idea? Oh, people who have absolutely nothing might need a little bit of help. You know, but the thing is, it works, and it works because they help each other. Whenever he has a job opening where he's working, he'll call over to see if anybody needs a job. That's how he got his job. It's a really good program. So anyway, just about everybody from this program gets parole on their next date that they're up for it. Out of the 59 people, 2 people didn't. Congratulations. He's sitting here in our studio. So I contacted an attorney and I said, can you appeal a parole decision? And he said, I don't know. And he looked it up. He said, yeah, in Texas you can. Who knew? And he said, I never heard of one who did. So I contacted another attorney, and he said, yeah, you can appeal it, but they're going to hold it against him. He said, I've never heard of anybody getting it. So I wrote a letter that was uncommonly nice for me, and, you know, just detailing his progress in prison, taking high school courses, college courses, welding courses, so that he has a trade. Then going into PEP, out of 250 people, 59 graduated. He was in the top 10. What else do you want him to do? And I ended the letter very sweetly by saying, if this parole decision can be re-looked at, I'd appreciate it. If not, please just put this into his parole file. Wasn't that sweet of me?
Very sweet of you.
Well, and we also decided better coming from me than from him, because he can't hold against me appealing for him, you know, or just asking re-look at this. I wasn't asking them to overturn anything. I was just asking them to look at it again. But yeah, out of the 59 people, only 2 people didn't get parole. And so when he got parole, great day. It really was.
That's
great.
an awesome day.
And he got out, started working, had a place to live because of this program, started working within a week, has been working ever since, is now taking care of his 14, going to be 15 next week, year-old son, and supporting him and doing great. I mean, you couldn't want a better murderer living next door to you. No, he's not.
That was going so well.
I was about to say, because I didn't know about that.
And he has recently gotten an apology from one of the people who testified against him for lying. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah. So anyway, those were our best days this year, or best days. Those all did come out to be
Or most
best days.
memorable
Yeah,
days.
Yeah. We have just a couple of minutes. Dallas Morning News announced their Texan of the Year. Who should it have been?
I think Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look back in the news of Texas, and in 2018, I don't know how you don't arrive at Beto.
And it wasn't, not to be biased here, because, you know, I voted for him, but he drew national attention to this state like unlike anyone else has done in a very long time, if ever.
Well, I voted for Ted Cruz, but I still think... Why is everybody in the studio laughing?
You admit that?
Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. No. The thing is, when you name a person of the year, it's not because you like the person, it's because of what the person accomplished. At Dallas Voice, we named Lupe Valdez. We got a lot of pushback on that. Well, she didn't win.
Right.
You know what? It's the first time in history of this country that an openly lesbian person ran for governor of any state anywhere.
And was nominated by a major party.
Yeah, exactly.
And was nominated by a major party. It wasn't like she just walked in and said, hey, I'm going to do this. And and get out of my way, she won.
Out of and in the primary especially, I mean, she came in first out of 10 candidates statewide.
Yeah.
And then won the runoff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really pretty unheard of. I was blown away that she almost took it just in the primary. She was 49%, and could have walked away with it.
I thought that was a good choice, but okay, so all of us agree that Beto, non-political, he shook up Texas politics this year.
He did.
There's no question that he out-fundraised everybody. He raised like presidential campaign level funds. That's not saying that you like him, but I think the Morning News was so afraid that they're going to lose more voters, more readers, that instead of naming somebody like that, they named Laura Bush. And they based it on the obvious thing, and that's what they say in their story, an op-ed that she wrote on detention centers at the border, and she wrote it in June.
That's digging. That is so digging.
And then all the other things that she did, they're going back to her being First Lady. And I'm not criticizing her, just like I'm saying it should have been Beto just because
she wasn't newsworthy.
Person of the Year.
In 2018.
She wrote an op-ed that appeared in the Morning News and probably some other papers saying separating kids from their parents isn't good. I know a whole bunch of people from Faith Forward Dallas. I went to a meeting of theirs. They asked me to come, and it was a planning meeting for all of these pastors to go to the border to actually see what was going on. They're more Texan of the Year. And again, I'm not criticizing Laura Bush. Good for her for standing up and saying what the Trump administration was doing is wrong. It's difficult for one president to criticize, a current president. You just don't do that. But it needed to be done. But what didn't make her Person of the Year?
That was such a bizarre choice, and where they must have put names in a hat and pulled out a name because it's not based on anything else.
It's based on we don't want to lose more readers, and I'm very serious about that. And when I say it's not political, Time magazine famously named one year Hitler Person of the Year. Why? Because he made more of a difference that year in the world than anybody else. I mean, it was the right choice.
He had the biggest impact on everybody.
But they didn't do that in the 1950s. They did it the year that he had the impact.
But what's equally interesting about not choosing Beto as far as the Morning News is they did endorse him.
And they probably lost a lot of readers when they did. We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink, and we'll be back with more right after this.
This is Rollins Gilliland, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing it.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. We're just finishing out the year with our year in review and some news and stuff going on.
Yeah, so we just mentioned that Lupe Valdez became the first lesbian to be nominated for a governorship by a major party. Well, we do have a gay governor, though, in the United States now. And that's a historic
And a
moment.
bisexual governor.
Who's the bi?
Kate Brown in Oregon.
Oregon, okay. But Jared Polis in Colorado.
And a transgender person had the Democratic nomination for governor in Vermont.
Oh, Vermont.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So this is,
There were 4 LGBT people running for governor. Lupe was the only one who identifies as lesbian. But that's an amazing year that we had.
So we had, of the 4, they were L, G, B, and T.
Yep.
I think it's so sweet right now that Jared Polis, and I really like him, and he's been a member of Congress for many terms now. that he's the governor of the baker in the Masterpiece
Yes.
Cake
Yes.
case.
Who's being sued again?
Yeah, that was a big story of the year. The LGBT community was anxiously, and I guess the evangelical community, they were watching this case also very closely. This case started, a year or two ago.
Oh, more.
I think it was even more than that, with this baker who refused to bake a cake for a gay couple for a wedding, and he lost every step of the way, and it was finally appealed to the United States Supreme Court, and he won.
But he won not on the merits of the case.
He didn't win on the merits of the case, and why everyone was watching it was basically it's just going to set them, it's giving permission to people to discriminate just for LGBT people to public accommodations, and it didn't even address that. It was addressed on kind of a technicality, because I guess in the lower court they mentioned, oh God, what was it?
No, it's the Human Rights Commission in Colorado had expressed bias against his religion,
Right.
in the early processing of the case. And so they ruled in his favor. They said, he did experience discrimination from this commission. And so that's the sum total of the entire case.
Yeah, they didn't
never addressed the merits about whether he should or shouldn't or could or couldn't deny a gay couple.
And again, what all they said was, they were really reaching, in my opinion. All they said was they had addressed that the historic discrimination in our country as a way through religion. Well, that is it is true. So when they mentioned that, they used that against them.
Now, there's a new case that's working its way through the courts, and it's against Masterpiece Cake.
But they occurred in the same proximity of time. So it wasn't like this first case had such notoriety that somebody deliberately went in and created a case.
Right.
No, they happened about the same time in
and what this is a transgender person who asked for a cake that was pink on the inside and blue on the outside, the transgender flag colors.
Right.
Rather
and more metaphorical too.
Yes. Yes.
And rather than just saying, I don't know how to make that cake, which is his excuse now,
that he didn't know how to do it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty shocking for a baker. Maybe you're not such a masterpiece.
No.
You know what? At least it's a polite answer. At the time, the bakery people issued, there are only two sexes, you can't change, God made you, blah, blah, blah. What does that have to do with a cake?
But this is the same cake baker who also made a cake for two dogs' wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. So what does the Bible say about two canines getting married?
So,
hey, well, it's messed up, and we're going to see this in the legislature in the spring, starting next month. Well, starting in a few days, probably. This whole, religious liberty mask for discriminating against us, and not just us, but against lots of other people.
Yeah.
Because what they're essentially doing is trying to create a massive loophole in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's what they're wanting to do. They're going to say not just LGBT people, not just those queers, but we want to discriminate against black people and against Jewish people and against brown people, and for whatever reasons they basically want to undo all of that and say we're going to hang
on my religion.
Right. I'm going to hang my shingle out to the public, but I'm not going to serve the entire public. And on a case-by-case basis or on a sweeping basis, I can choose to deny services. And, and I say, why not, if you have the balls to do that, then why not have the balls to hang a sign and put it in all of your advertising, in print, your brick and mortar, online, everywhere. Everywhere you exist, you say, I will not serve, no service to gays, to Jews, to black people.
Or Muslims.
Pardon me?
So, or Muslims.
Or Muslims. I mean, put it out there and own it. If you're so damn proud
Yeah.
of your religious beliefs, put it out there. So people
if
don't
those
waste their
really
time.
Are your so-called religious beliefs? I don't know of a religion that teaches you to discriminate.
I don't either.
It's so interesting, though, how I think we've gotten, you mentioning the 1964 Civil Rights Act, I think so many people just interpret that to think about race and only race. There was a case, was it a year or two ago, where a heterosexual interracial couple tried to get married in Louisiana, and the judge wouldn't officiate it because he said it was against his religion. Well, they removed him from the bench. And I mean, that was taken care of immediately. Every other situation, you know, hum and hum and like, well, that's their religious belief. You know, just interesting.
It's like, no, if you're a business and you hang your shingle out to the public, you serve everyone. And otherwise, you're a club.
Yeah.
You're a club, and people need to buy memberships to your club. And that's it. Period.
Yeah. So like Sam's Club?
I don't know, but you need to put it out there so that, I mean, if we should have the right to know before we walk into an establishment that they're planning to discriminate against me. I'm wasting my time going in there and hearing some sort of crap coming out of this guy's mouth.
Yeah.
That's not fair to everybody, and it's not fair to other businesses either.
Yeah.
You know, so people need to own their bigotry. That's what makes me mad. And for all these years I've been on the air, what I've always said, let the bigots show themselves. Put it out there.
Put it out there.
Let us see it.
Because everywhere where somebody put an amendment out to a law like this,
requiring exactly
that, the bill has died.
Yes.
Because nobody wants to actually own being a bigot.
Right.
And they know that's what they are.
In Oklahoma, Emily Virgin, who's my favorite Oklahoma representative, she added that to their bill, which was, they had a horrible bill. She added that to the bill. Somehow the bill got pulled from the floor within minutes.
It's happened all over state houses across the country. If the second you say you got to own it, they don't want to do it then. This religious liberty suddenly, it doesn't become a priority. But what really ticks me off is that you look at some of these folks who are behind all of this, and you know they don't want to serve somebody who they don't want to serve a woman who's had an abortion. Well, you don't know that when they come in to buy a muffin out of your bakery.
Exactly.
They're not going to interview you. And people who are divorced.
Your shirt says, I had an abortion.
No, I mean, like, the cognitive dissonance and the hypocrisy is just oozing, and it stinks. It's just amazing that
Isn't that what that means on her Planned Parenthood shirt?
Wow. I'm actually wearing a Knon Wind shirt that's red.
It is
Well,
red.
I don't have my glasses. I can't see.
It's not pink, it's red.
A week from Tuesday starts a new session of the legislature, and like you said, these religious liberty laws are going to be around. What else should we look for at this session?
I think that you know, the sources inside the religious right have decided among themselves that the best way to attack trans people is to separate the LGB from the T.
Yeah.
And I think our biggest defense of all of these bills, which we managed to defeat all but one last session. Thank God the legislature in Texas only meets once every other year.
What was the one that we weren't able to?
The religious liberty one through adoption, through CPS
that's
adoption,
right.
if there's
That's right.
an agency, but they have to provide you reference to someone who will.
And Oklahoma
let you
Oklahoma just passed a similar bill, but I don't think it has that clause that you have to help them out basically with another agency.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
But I think that's what we're going to see is a lot more of that and attempts to divide us so that they can isolate. Because I think, well, most of these plans that we've seen from the right wing are that they've given up and they've lost the fight on LGBT stuff.
Yeah.
They've lost marriage and family and all that kind of stuff. And all their fights about it against us, but they want to isolate the T and then torture the T, and that's what their intent is. They want to rub them out of existence. And we have to stand together. We have to be at one. If like Equality Texas changed their slogan and emphasis to being a defensive organization, so that if attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, and we need to stand together. That's the most important thing we can do through this session.
So you're expecting bathroom bills?
I don't think they're going to go very far, because I think everybody recognizes that was a grand failure last spring, but I think that the Freedom Caucus will certainly introduce it. I heard as well that Matt Rinaldi, who lost to our own Julie Johnson in House District 115 in Northwest Dallas County, has been named executive director of that Freedom Caucus, where they get funding from, let me guess, Empower Texans?
How can he be with the Freedom Caucus if he's out of office?
He's the executive director.
Okay.
So I don't know how he gets paid, because he's unemployed, and who funds him, but that's what he's doing. So they're still around, and they're going to introduce that stuff, and I hope, knock on something, it's going to go nowhere, because it went nowhere before, and it just embarrassed the state.
Celia Israel, who's one of the 5 golden lesbians, she introduced a bill to prevent reparative therapy from being, I don't want to use the word used on teens, inflicted upon teens is the
prohibited
really
practice.
And it would be considered malpractice, which it actually is by all professional organizations.
And I think that's an fantastic bill to do at the state level. There's very little anyone can do lower than that, because the licensing and the oversight of therapists doesn't happen at a municipal level. It doesn't happen at a county level. It happens at the state level, and that's where it needs to be. And I was thrilled when I saw her announce that filing. That's cool.
You're saying that it should. That's the right level that it should be, of course. But lots of cities have passed.
They've never enforced them. Find a city that's enforced it. They don't. It's a proclamation. It's a sense of the city kind of thing, but it's not an enforceable. No, none of them enforce it.
You mentioned Equality Texas. Equality Texas is the lobby organization that's been there for the LGBT community since about 1980 something.
87,
something like that.
Clint Maxey was the first executive director,
but he wasn't there the first year. So probably it started 87. He came in 89 and 91, and then he was elected to the legislature. Right. But Equality Texas has been there. The ones that are lobbying for us. They've worked with other organizations, like every year when something comes up to prevent LGBT people from being foster parents, you just have to go to CPS and say they're at it again, and CPS hysterically says, who the hell do you think is adopting all of our kids? We have 70,000 kids in the foster system at any one time. Who do you think is taking these kids, especially the special needs kids? And those bills usually die. But that's Equality Texas working behind the scenes.
And it used to be called the Lesbian Gay Rights Lobby of Texas. So for those who, LGRL is now Equality Texas. Yeah.
Anyway, Chuck Smith, who's been the executive director for
5-6 years,
something like that. Yeah,
3 or 4 sessions.
He's gone.
Yeah.
They named an interim director, and I guess they're looking for somebody permanent. Any idea what happened with Chuck?
No idea. And he has been an amazing advocate. I can remember early on, I was thinking, wow. He had been a volunteer with the organization, and then he went and became staff, and then he was named executive director. And he was really kind of awkward in the public speaking realm at first, but boy, he caught on really quickly, because the first time I heard him when he first took, because I've been a donor for a long time and had lots of opportunities to hear him. And at first he was a little bit awkward, and then boy, he's he can command his voice in the Capitol Rotunda, which I think is just awesome. And he was so melded into that job, and I loved him in that role. But I also know Samantha Smoot. I worked with her when I was on the active in the Human Rights Campaign, and she was political director at the time, or political field director. And she has a wonderful background. She's from Planned Parenthood. She's from used to be the president of the Texas Freedom Network. She's been, and she's of course worked at the Human Rights Campaign.
So we're not in any kind of trouble going into the new legislative session with the new executive
Her feet
director.
have been wet for years.
That would be
including
good to know.
in Texas.
That would be good to know.
Yes.
I talked to Jessica last week. Did we talk about this on the air? But we were talking about Celia filed some bills, Mary Gonzalez filed some bills, where are Julie and Jessica's bills? They can't file bills until they're in the legislature,
Sure,
and they're not in the legislature till a week from Tuesday.
Right.
I was down there to pick up my press pass to get into the floor of the House of Representatives, because to me it was easier to take a 3-hour drive to Austin, take 5 minutes to go to the Reagan building where you get your press pass, pick it up, and drive 3 hours back than it was to wait online on the Tuesday. The line is that bad. I walked into the Capitol while I was there. Nobody was there. I mean, doors were tight shut. And they don't even have, I know that they know their offices, but they don't have their signs up yet.
Well, the signs with their names are already up because they've all posted it. You can go to any of their Facebook pages.
The big signs that have the lists of the... So you can't find anybody.
Right,
I mean,
big
you can walk
directory.
up and down the halls. I found Victoria Nieve's new office, which is right next door to Celia's, I think. But I couldn't find the but anyway, the offices were tight shut. I was hoping to see a couple of them.
Did you hear what happened with State Representative Eric Johnson? District 100. You know, he had that plaque outside his office.
Oh yeah.
And that's, you know, Confederate racist stuff, and he's been demanding that it be removed and such. And he changed offices this time, and now he's in an office where a Confederate soldier was killed.
Oh, right.
It was a murder in his office.
The only person who's ever been killed in the Capitol building.
And he's
in that office.
Is that poetic justice? I don't know.
I don't know.
I think so.
Wow.
Oh, I think so. We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Hi, this is Valletta Lil, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink, and we're talking news in the year in review. Lerone, any big LGBT stories this year?
Well, yes, a couple of sports ones. You know, last week we talked about Patricio Manuel, goes by Pat Manuel. He became the first trans male boxer to win a professional match. So that's a great start. And then in other sports news, we've been mentioning Persons of the Years. Adam Rippon was chosen as Out Sports Person of the Year. Believe it or not, he's the first U.S. openly gay athlete to win. He got a bronze medal at this year's Winter Olympics.
He's the first gay ice skater.
It's like, wow.
Well, except for the ones that are like co-hosting events on the Food Network and all over the air with the big hair.
And which I didn't know this. He won this year's Dancing with the Stars. He's the first openly gay contestant to win that.
He won?
He won. Yeah.
Didn't know that. I don't watch that show.
I used to watch it religiously, but then I stopped. So,
you know, I had a couple of stories that they might not be the biggest stories of the year, but I think they're landmark stories. One of them is the new marker, the historical marker on Cedar Springs. It is the first historical marker in Texas that designates an area as being historical in reference to the LGBT community. The group the Dallas Way worked on the wording of the plaque, and getting it has been a multi-year chore. You wouldn't think that they'd be that difficult to get, but they are. Because it goes back and forth between the sponsoring group and then the state, and then the state sends the wording back to the local, and but the application itself, even though the plaque is like 3 paragraphs, the application describing the place that you're designating is 9 pages. And it went on and on and on. Anyway, I think that's exciting that Cedar Springs was designated, and also that it was the first place in Texas that was designated.
Yep.
That's very exciting.
That is very exciting.
Go ahead.
I was going to say another big thing this year, or it actually happens next year, is the Pride Parade is being moved.
Parade and festival.
That's right.
Yep.
Right.
The Fair
So
Park.
what do you all think? Just some people not happy.
I'm not terribly happy about it.
But the reason they're moving, I think makes sense. It's temporarily. I don't know. Well, is it temporary? But they're moving because of upcoming construction on Cedar Springs.
Okay, the parade has to move because there's going to be construction on Cedar Springs.
Right.
Can't have the parade there this year.
That makes sense.
Can't guarantee. They asked everything. What if just any holes in the whatever in the street are closed up the day of the parade, or the weekend of the parade? It doesn't have to be beautiful, but we can have it there. Well, the sidewalks are being replaced also. And without sidewalks, you can't have people watching the parade.
Right.
So it just can't be on Cedar Springs this year. And could we move it to June and have it? No, because the construction's starting before June. Can't have it there. The festival has outgrown Reverchon Park. The reason it moved to Reverchon Park from Oak Lawn Park is because we outgrew Oak Lawn Park. Now we've outgrown Reverchon Park. There isn't another park. So they chose Fair Park for a couple of reasons. Got a good rate on the fairgrounds. There's indoor and outdoor facilities so that if it rains, the entire festival can move indoors to the Centennial Building.
Which it often does.
And they're planning they're planning some fun stuff to really make it grow. A couple of things also. Reverchon Park, the office buildings around it, refuse to open their multi-story parking garages to people to come to the festival. There's plenty of parking at Fair Park, plus the Green Line stops right in front of the place. So it's easy to get to.
And out of.
Yeah. In and out. Both.
But it hurts my heart that we're almost going to be like marching in a circle to ourselves.
Okay, now that's for getting there. It's for both the parade and the festival. Now, I was talking about the festival mostly. They're planning all kinds of interesting stuff, like fireworks maybe, and they just have lots of fun ideas. The parade, I'm not picturing yet.
It's going to be marching around in a circle to ourselves.
And we'll see. I'm keeping an open mind to it.
It's
if it doesn't work,
closed venue.
It is.
There's a fence and a wall. I mean, it's...
And if it doesn't work this year, can move again.
I was going to say, are they calling this a temporary move?
Well, not temporary. This is the move for this year. We don't know where it'll be the next year.
Yeah, but have they signed some multi-year deal?
Yeah.
Nope.
To get some better rate?
Nope.
I don't know. I think it's great for the festival. I think it's accessible, which I think is really important. I don't know that trying to cross the lawn at Reverchon Park is good for people with disabilities. But so I'm happy about the festival. I think that's awesome. And it's, the DART rail stops literally right there.
So logistically it makes sense.
Yeah. But for the parade, it's like, we're going to put you over here out of town under a tent or some ball field that nobody uses, and you're going to be by yourselves, and you're just going to march around by yourselves.
But David and I were talking before the show about this. Most of the other big city parades don't have it in their neighborhoods either. The largest.
But they have it in pub. I mean, they move down
they
streets.
They do.
And part of the problem there is Dallas requirements for parade. We have more requirements for having fencing, the locking grates that keep people out of the street. Houston doesn't have the same requirements.
And they have the largest parade in downtown.
If you move it downtown, for every intersection, you have to have a certain number of police. If it's a two-way intersection or a three-way or four-way intersection, however many ways, it increases the number of police. For every high-rise building, we have requirements for sharpshooters and for other police.
But why not do it like in Bishop Arts?
And that's, again, it's an idea. I'm just saying, why didn't we move it downtown? Way too expensive.
Oh, I get it downtown. I totally get that. And I've always.
But that's the number one thing that people brought up at the meeting where it was discussed.
Yeah,
whether it would.
That was the first thing that came to my head. Why didn't you move it to downtown?
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't have to be down Cedar Springs either. I mean, quite honestly, it could be in lots of streets in and around Oak Lawn. It could be down Lemon, maybe. It could be,
What about how come they just didn't do Oak Lawn itself?
Yeah, down Oak Lawn.
Yeah, down Oak Lawn.
Because Oak Lawn becomes Preston? That might be.
I think
Snark.
too busy.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is a busy road.
New York closes Fifth Avenue for parades, but I think this was really a matter of too busy a street, where Cedar Springs isn't necessarily.
Look, I know Atlanta does their Pride Parade downtown, and it's pretty big. Where does San Antonio do theirs?
Do you know they tried doing it on the Riverwalk, which looked like a gorgeous parade because it was a night parade also.
Yeah.
So not only were the floats on boats, but they were lit up.
Yeah.
I think they just do it in their neighborhood, which is like St. Mary's, and
Okay.
which is outside of downtown, just northwest of downtown, I think.
I think that's right.
I think that's
I was
right,
just
yeah.
there earlier this year.
And I've heard rumblings that there will be a Pride Parade in Denton, and there will be a Pride Parade in Rowlett or Rockwall.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, it's coming.
But the other big part of this story is it is moving to June, which a lot of people have been saying should be moved back to June, which is when all the other parades around the nation take place because it's Gay Pride Month. It's
Now,
finally happening.
That's only part of the reason it's moving to June. If it's going to be in Fair Park's not available in September because Fair Park's being readied for the State Fair.
That's true.
Yeah, so you cannot rent facilities in Fair Park in September.
Yeah. But at least we got it back in June.
But I think it's fantastic to be in June.
I do too.
We sell it. The whole reason we do it in June is because of the rebellion at the Stonewall Inn, which was June 28th, 1969, and was kind of kicked off the whole LGBT equality movement. And we have 3 significant landmark cases,
Huge.
rulings from the Supreme Court of the United States, which all fell on different years. 2003, 2013, 2015.
In 1996.
Do what?
The first Justice Kennedy ruling was in 1996, and that was the Colorado case that said that...
Amendment 2.
That Amendment 2 was an amendment that nullified any city ordinances protecting any group.
That's why I think, how can they possibly do that at the state?
Right.
Going forward, because that was ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court decades ago. But that one aside, I don't know what day that fell on, but the 3 and then the 2000s have been on June 26th.
Yep.
We should be celebrating those victories. And there's always been kind of this murky thing about why we were doing it in September here. But one of them was that it was the first time that Section 2106 of the Texas Penal Code, which is the homosexual conduct law,
Right.
had been overturned. Well, it got blown out of the water and forever gone on June 26th,
On June
2003.
26th, from a case that came out of Texas.
Yes, in Lawrenceville, Texas. So we should be celebrating that,
Yeah.
and not previous steps. We got the big guns and the big
And then the
balloons.
next one was Windsor.
USB Windsor,
And then
Obergefell.
Obergefell.
invalidated the Defense of Marriage Act in Obergefell, which was marriage
Quality, yeah.
A couple of, we're coming up toward the end of the show, a couple of big retirements announced just before the end of the year. Don Mason, who is the executive director, or he's CEO is his title now, I think, of AIDS Services Dallas.
And a frequent guest on our show.
Yeah, he's been on our show many times. Longest serving director of an AIDS organization in the United States.
Wow.
He's retiring in February.
Will he really? Because I think he's talked about before about retiring. He always comes back and he just keeps going and working.
No, he has plans.
He has plans.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Don. Well deserved.
And as I said to him when I saw him, I said, Don, the reason you're the longest serving director of an AIDS organization in the United States is because you're very, very old.
It's very, very stubborn.
That's the other piece. He is very, very stubborn. The other big retirement, Carol West, who started out as a pastor at Cathedral of Hope, and for the last 20 years has been the pastor of Celebration Community Church in Fort Worth, is retiring.
Carol's retiring.
Carol is retiring.
We need to have them both on our show in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good idea.
If we can squeeze in a date with them from their new retirement, they've got plans. And
well, Carol will be able to
busy.
make it because she won't be in church.
True. Well, she won't be at church working.
She won't be in that church.
I'm sure she'll be worshiping.
Yes. But she can just worship her butt over to Dallas.
And we'll look forward to it.
A few big deaths this year. Matilda Krim, who was 91, she founded AMFAR to promote HIV and AIDS research. She died on January 15th, almost a year ago, but it was in this current year. And Donna Redwing, who was on our show a number of years ago. She was an LGBT activist.
At one point, she was called the most dangerous woman in America.
Mm-hmm. By the right wing, not by
the right
us.
wing, yeah.
Because Donna was a very sweet person. Some local deaths. John Loza, former mayor pro tem. Mayor pro tem, not deputy mayor pro tem. He was mayor pro tem. Okay. John Loza passed away. He was 54.
Big loss.
Mm-hmm.
So young.
Michael Milliken. He was 71. He was a co-founder of Stonewall Democrats of Dallas.
And he died almost a year to the day after Christy Kinsler, who was also a co-founder of Stonewall Democrats of Dallas.
Yeah, they're the two that really put
and
the
Bill Fry
together.
and Gary Fitzsimmons.
Yeah. George Schill died. He was one of the owners of An Occasional Piece on Cedar Springs.
Love that store.
Yeah. Still miss it. Paul Rogers, I wanted to mention him. Paul was on a number of boards, but I knew him from when I was on the Equality Texas, or LGRL board, back in 1993. And Paul's the person who taught me how to be a board member, an effective board member. So Paul passed away. A number of other deaths also, but
I'll just point out, a number of years ago, for many years, we had the National Coming Out Project here in Dallas, and we did that non-discrimination ad in the paper, in the Dallas Morning News, with all the names.
Yep, I remember.
And at one year, there was a little formatting issue in the ad, and that we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names. But one year they had John Ames, not the county. The town tax assessor.
Yeah.
Another guy named John Ames, and active in the community. John Ames, comma, An Occasional Piece. And it was meant. He should have been like, An Occasional Piece should be the next line.
Right, exactly.
But
that is hilarious.
Such great fun. Yeah.
That's too funny.
We're coming up to the top of the hour. the show that's coming up after us isn't
Isn't here.
Isn't here.
So we'll just keep talking.
Well,
We
there's-
need to stop at the top of the hour just to do our.
There's a couple of big laws that have been passed this year nationwide. I didn't realize this, but Colorado made history as the first state to issue intersex birth certificates to the one
Excellent.
that are medically accurate. So that is awesome. Now, I did read that California is close behind. I think they're about to do it also. So that's awesome. And, you know, there's been so much talk about bathrooms and bathroom bills. Well, Vermont passed and had their governor sign a bill that requires all public bathrooms to be gender neutral.
That's great.
That's awesome, too.
That's really, really awesome.
So,
It's just
no,
a
well, I guess
non-issue.
a lot of people are not going to
non-issue.
be able to pee.
no more people would be able to pee
It's
now.
like our restroom here at the station.
It is gender neutral.
It is gender neutral.
And like David says, so is the one in my house.
Well, it is.
Exactly.
I only have one.
Yeah.
So,
We did have
This-
some. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say we did have some high. I think some high points also in the election with the election of Kirsten Sinema to the United States Senate. So now we have an openly an out lesbian in Tammy Baldwin, who's United States Senator from Wisconsin, who's been out from the time she ran for city council, out all the way through. And Kirsten Sinema from Arizona is taking Jeff Flake's seat. She won that after some, detailed counting, and so now she's going to be the first openly bi senator. So we have 2% of the United States
2%.
Senate.
Hold on just a second.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
And the next show is here. They're just setting up, so we'll just chat. Just throw us off the air when you're ready for us to get out of here. One statistic I got from the LGBT Victory Fund that I thought was interesting, there are only 4 states left that don't have any LGBT legislators.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Let's guess.
I don't have them in front of me, and I don't remember exactly.
Well, thanks
which
for
ones
bringing
they
it
were.
up, David.
I know. But in this election, you're talking about in the Senate, but in the House, Kansas elected 2 legislators, 2 lesbian legislators, and they're sending somebody to Congress because Kansas is so liberal.
Right.
I'm betting. I'm going to guess one of those states is probably Mississippi.
No. We have
No?
Pat. Oh, Erin texts me. Oh, she's out at lunch. Sorry. I met her several times.
Really?
Yes. Pat. I have a picture of me with Jeff Strader and her. She's an openly gay lesbian legislator in
Well, I hope
Mississippi.
she's not a straight lesbian.
Well,
Okay, well that's a problem.
Happy New Year, David.
Our hour is over, so we can make no sense. One of the states that still doesn't is one of the Dakotas. And I don't remember if it's East Dakota or North Dakota or West Dakota. It's one of those.
Yeah.
One of the many Dakotas. Ready? Okay, we already did top of the hour. And stay tuned for the Ethiopian.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you all.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.